Minnesota had a delegation go to Germany this past fall, and they met with the utility industry people and with consumer groups and whatnot. The residential customer in Wisconsin pays about 11 cents per kilowatt hour. In Germany, it's 30 cents per kilowatt hour for the average residential customer, 30 cents. And this is before they phased out all their nuke plants. 5 cents of that is for subsidies for solar. What we're trying to do is provide a right generation mix to make sure that we can keep your bills low. Putting all your eggs in one basket is not going to do that. You need to have a little bit of nuclear, a little bit of hydro, gas, wind, solar, coal. It's all got to be part of that mix to keep the energy affordable. I don't think that anybody in this room wants to be paying 30 cents a kilowatt hour.
No.
We're paying less than Germany because it's mostly coal. Coal has 9 federal subsidies. We're paying as taxpayers, after 100 years, we're still subsidizing the coal industry, 9 different federal subsidies. That's why coal is the cheapest, and it's the cheapest energy that goes on the line first. That's the federal regulation.
I've got a series of questions dealing with environmental impacts, more particularized. The first question would be, why can't the lines be buried?
The lines, to bury these kind of lines, the main reason that they're not usually buried is cost. And to build them overhead, it's about $2 million a mile. To build them underground, the cost is about 10 times as much or more. So when you think about $2 million a mile versus $20 million a mile, or even more than $20 million a mile, it's the number one reason why they're not built underground is cost. And it's not always it's not the utility's decision. It's the Public Service Commission in Wisconsin, and I'm familiar with the projects that we've done in Minnesota. The commission staff and the commissioners oftentimes do a cost-benefit sort of comparison, and to charge the ratepayers the amount of cost that it would to bury these lines has to come along with a benefit, and that benefit usually doesn't meet the additional price. In the few cases where we see lines being permitted underground are cases where you have a physical reason why you can't build it overhead. Example might be in the core of a central business area where you've got buildings in the way, or maybe at the end of a runway. But in addition to that, if we build a line underground, there's a large amount of trenching that has to be done. There's underground vaults that have to be installed, and these are like underground rooms 20 feet by 10 feet wide, just so you can...
I'm sorry. Is it safer to build underground than it is to build overhead?
Is it safer?
Is it safer?
No, I think they're safe above ground and underground. I don't know.
You're trying to tell me that it's not safe to build underground as much as
The people are taking over
overhead.
the meeting.
I don't think it is safer to put them underground.
Why?
He's had a lot.
Well,
I realize my question is out of order, and I apologize for that, but for the last hour and a half, I've been sitting here wanting to ask several questions. This is one question that I have. Why is it not safer?
what is the concern?
My children.
Oh, are you thinking about the EMF levels?
I'm concerned about all of it. This line is supposed to be on the corner of my property, which is, okay, everybody else. But why is it not safer to build underground than it is overhead?
Okay, the concern with health and safety that we've heard tonight is EMF levels. And if you build an overhead line, those wires are up in the air, they're a bit farther away, versus if they're underground. If you bury lines you actually get a higher EMF level because the lines are closer to the surface of the ground. That's one example, and the overhead lines are built with all of the safety margins for clearance. They're built on very strong structures. Their safety is not a concern with either overhead or underground lines.
How can that be? How can safety not be a concern? How can the health of our family, our friends, our children, the animals, everything not be a concern?
Okay, and you don't have to take our word for it from the utilities. All of these issues have been studied in the environmental impact statement. The state of Wisconsin has done a good job at studying those, and I encourage you to look at that document, and they do address all those issues.
Well, folks, we're going to try and stay on task here. I have a series of, part of this packet, the questions I have, is regarding some specific questions dealing with health concerns, and I'll see if I can summarize it as best I can. I apologize, I'm trying to summarize because we're trying to move through a lot of questions. We'll give you a chance to respond. We do need to move along. One of the questions really is ultimately, I guess I'll ask this of the folks. It says, why would you consider putting 445 kilowatt power lines along routes that have Holmen schools, knowing their links and this person claims to leukemia, spontaneous abortion? I guess I'll ask the folks and myself to address the generalized health and safety concerns, and then I'll give the folks from citizens a chance to respond.
And again, I work for the power company. I don't expect you to get the information that you use from me. But what I can tell you is that the state, well, there's been 3 EISs done for this project. One in Minnesota, one in Wisconsin, and then a federal EIS. Each one of those documents has reviewed this concern of EMF. And each one of those documents has come to the same conclusion, that it's not a sufficient concern that the line be routed in any particular way. What each process does is it goes through the state and the federal process, including these public meetings, including a vast amount of data collection, including hearings. The process that we're going through in Wisconsin is a good process, and the goal of that process is not only to determine whether a project is needed, but if it is needed, what's the route and minimize the impact of people and the environment. And that's what the process tries to do. And it's a good process, and it allows for people to be involved in it. And going back to the health concerns, again, I encourage you to read that section of the EIS, because they do a good job at laying it out, and I'll give you my take on it, is that the concern that people have are from studies of statistics. These are called epidemiological studies. Now, that's a kind of a study, and when they get a suspicion that there may be a health concern from any particular cause, they bring those studies into a clinical realm, and they do actual controlled studies in the laboratory environment to determine, first of all, is there a cause and effect relationship? Is there a dose-response relationship? Is there any plausible mechanism that this could have any kind of health effect? And the results of those clinical controlled studies have been negative. They tell us, no, there's not any of those things. So the concern that you're hearing about are concerns because of statistical studies, not clinical studies.